Hi, fifth graders. We're here today with our second book in the text set called Achieving a Dream. This one is called Long-Armed Ludy and the First Women's Olympic. Again, it's in grade 5, text set 12, Achieving a Dream. No one really knows how Ludy's arms got so long. Maybe too much tug-of-warring with the dogs. Maybe too much hauling water to the hogs. Or maybe too much swinging from the tree branches with all her sisters and brothers hanging on. Come to think of it, maybe that's what made Ludy's arms so strong. When Ludy set off for the Winthrop College in 1917, she was 6 feet tall and skinnier than a Carolina pine. In fact, if she turned sideways, you'd think she had disappeared. That's an exaggeration, but it makes the point that she was very thin. But you could always spot Ludy on the athletic field, sprinting, cheering, scoring, sporting. Now, notice all of these words, they've taken the G off the end and they put in that little hyphen area, apostrophe looking thing. And that means that it's kind of a slang word that we've taken the G off to make it a point in how we talk. In every sport, Ludy used her long arms to encourage her teammates. You can do it! During the final year on the track team, Ludy tried the shot put. The shot put is a really heavy ball, like a bowling ball, but it's smaller. And you try and throw it as far as you can. That's what shot put is. They still do that in cross country, track, those sports. Give it a ride, urged Coach Bartlett. Ludy scooped up the heavy iron ball and placed it between her fingers. She bent her knees, pushed her long arm upward, and released. The ball soared across the sky. Her throw was almost as long as 3 automobiles. Thunder and cannonballs! Unbelievable! Her heart boomed. Her long arms tingled. She loved the explosion of power. So Ludy trained to become a shot putter. Every muscle needed to be strong. She lifted dumbbells till her arms turned to noodles. She ran till her toes cried for mercy, and she did so many leg squats that her feet disappeared in the dust. She wanted to become a champion. All that lifting and running and squatting paid off. At a Winthrop College track meet in the spring of 1922, Ludy surprised everyone. She set an American record in the shot put with a throw of 35 feet, 6 1/4 inches. And before you could say, Carolina Cannonball, Ludy and Coach Bartlett hopped on a train. They headed north to an important track meet in New York. There, the best athletes would try out for an international meet called the Women's Olympics. When they arrived at the tryout meet, more than 100 women were running and jumping and throwing. Ludy eyed the muscular shot putters. Did she even have a chance? Give it a ride, urged Coach Bartlett. Ludy placed the iron ball between her fingers. She focused, she pushed, released. The officials measured. The announcer boomed, 35 feet, 11 inches. Miss Lucille Godbold has set a new American record. Coach Bartlett flung her clipboard into the clouds. You won, she cried. You're headed to the Women's Olympics in Paris, France. Ludy whooped. Ooh la la! And the guy down at the bottom says, she broke her own record. Cloud busting cantaloupes. It's funny how we get words. My dad always said, holy Toledo or holy guacamole, and I still say that today. So that's what that, cloud busting cantaloupes. It's just a saying, but it means wow. But Ludy's smile soon sagged. And that smile soon sagged is alliteration. They used SS and an S just to make the story a little bit more interesting. I'd love to go to the Women's Olympics, she told Coach Bartlett. I'd be honored right down to the tips of my toes, but I just don't have the money. The train ride back to South Carolina was quiet. When they arrived at Winthrop College, nearly 1,300 women welcomed Ludy home, cheering and stomping till the floor sprouted splinters. Ludy was stunned. She couldn't bear to tell them all the bad news, so she pushed out a smile and kept on training. She's keeping that secret right now to herself that she doesn't have that much money. More lifting, more running, more squatting, more putting. Sweat dribbled down Ludy's ankles and into her old shoes. More than anything, she wanted to go to the Women's Olympics. But how would she come up with the money? It would be impossible. Ludy cradled the iron ball in her hands. It felt as heavy as the world, maybe even heavier. But Ludy hung on. One morning, Ludy ran past President Johnson's office. He opened the door and whooshed her inside. "Good news," he said. "Winthrop's 1,300 students and teachers are donating money so that you can go to France." Ludy's skinny backside nearly slipped off the chair. She'd be going to the Women's Olympics. "I promised to win," she vowed. "Not just for myself, but for everyone helping me." And for the next 2 months, Ludy trained twice as hard. At the Women's Olympics, she'd have to throw with both of her long arms, first with her right and then with her left. How do you like those pants that she's wearing? On August 1st, Ludy climbed the gangplank of the Eknatana for the 6-day voyage to France. She shook hands with her new coach, Dr. Stewart. Would he be strict? She smiled at her new teammates. Would they be kind? The ship began to rock and sway. Blubbering codfish! She'd have to train on board. More lifting, more running, more squatting, more putting. Ludy only fed one to the fish. Do you get it? She's on a boat. She's practicing her shot put, and it said she only fed one to the fish. And then look down here. Look how blue. So if the boat was rocking and swaying, maybe one of those really heavy balls got away from her and ended up in the ocean. When Ludy and her new friends reached Paris, ooh la la! Every morning they practiced for 2 hours, but in the afternoon and the evenings, they opened their eyes to the world. The battlefields, Versailles, the pastry shops smelled like heaven. I forgot how to say this. And I know it's just like it went blank when I have to read it. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to look that up and let you know. The pastry shop smelled like heaven, but Dr. Stewart only allowed them to drool, so she wasn't allowed to eat pastries. I want you to think about that. Why would she not be allowed to eat all the food that smelled so good in Paris? The night before the Women's Olympics, Ludy lay awake in bed, the moon round and shiny, staring through her window. Ludy stared back. Was she good enough to win? On the morning of August 20th, 1922, Ludy entered Pershing Stadium for the Women's Olympics. 24,000 fans roared from the stands. Ludy's teammates handed her Old Glory. What do you think Old Glory is? They handed her Old Glory. When the wind tugged, she gripped the flag tighter. When the Americans cheered, she lifted it higher. That afternoon, Ludy faced the best women shot putters in the world. She knew the hardest fight would come from France's world record holder, Violet Grand Morris. She looks kind of like a stout, like she would be strong. Violet stopped to the circle and pawed the ground with her toes. Kind of like a dog, kind of heaved. She heaved with her right arm. She heaved with her left arm. The two throws were added together. Total distance, 65 feet, 1.5 inches. Well, I think she's feeling like she can't do it. Ludy's long arms wobbled like French custard. That's like pudding. Oh, they just wiggle wobbled. How could she beat that throw? Then she heard Dr. Stewart holler, "Now, Ludy, you show 'em what you can do." Ludy thought of Coach Bartlett and her 1,300 friends at college. She thought of her family back home. "Give it a ride," she whispered to herself. She placed the iron ball between the fingers on her right hand. She focused, pushed, released. She placed the iron ball between the fingers of her left hand. She focused, pushed, released. Total distance, 66 feet, 4 1/8 inches, cried the officials. Miss Lucille Godbold of the United States is the winner. The American flag shot up the pole. The band blasted the Star-Spangled Banner twice. Ludy's heart swelled. Tears leaped from her cheekbones and bounced off the curve of her smile. She had set a new world record. That evening, Ludy and her new friends received their medals. After the banquet, they ate so much French pastry they nearly popped. Ludy wanted to wrap her long, strong arms around every person who had helped her compete at the Women's Olympics. Thanks to the big heart of so many, she had become a champion. There's some more information about Ludy if you want to stay on this page and read a little bit. It's kind of interesting stuff.